And I think, listening back to a couple of the other podcast episodes, I think this has been a common trend, but I'll give my unique spin on it, which is it really does all come down to communication because, in security, you're working with people and you have to be able to connect with them and get that buy-in. And I'll say when I first started out, one of my first activities was actually helping exida develop our cybersecurity book, looking at implementing the ISA/IEC 62443 standard, where it was very, it was a mixture of theoretical of, okay, how would you do it? And then practical of, working with our experts, working with some of our customers and looking at what we had done. But it was very much outlining that approach of, okay, this is what you should do. This is what it should look like. And then I can think back to some of the first sites I was visiting. I was in, I'll say, the middle of, and I don't mean this in a mean way. I was in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where you fly out to an airport and then you drive 2 or 3 hours in any direction, and there's nothing else around besides that plant. And we get there and we find out that the plant manager and the control systems owner that we're working with does not like the corporate group that has brought us in. So we get in, we're already off on a bad start. And they're really not interested in what we have to say. They're not interested in the questions we're asking. And so you've got that challenge of, there are people that you need to get information from to do your job, to understand what's happening at the site. And so first, you have to get the information out of them. And then from there, you have to be able to then communicate what they need to do differently. And so that was really a unique challenge where I hadn't quite experienced that just initial resistance to being there yet. But I definitely learned a lot from it in terms of, connecting with people, understanding what would speak to them, what could we connect on? Because again, as you are bringing people and trying to train them up in cybersecurity, there are so many things to learn, but then you're talking to an operator or someone who's been working in the same system for 20 years, and they know that so much better than you ever could. So you're not going to come in and be the expert on their system, but you might be the expert on the approach. And so letting them explain how their system works, learning from them, and then kind of after they explain it, using how they explained it to point out maybe there are a couple of things that could be done better, or asking questions of, okay, so you explain, how your system is connected this way. Does that mean that you could connect remotely if you had X, Y, Z? And then they might think about it and say, yes, you could do that. So instead of telling them what's wrong, you might ask them some questions where they actually start to give the findings to you. So I think that communications piece and really understanding what's important to who you're working with, how to talk to someone who is very much in the plant versus someone who is maybe making some of the upper level management or financial decisions. You may have the same message delivered, but you might have to do it in two very different ways. And I think that's something that from some of those early, very interesting onset experiences that I've had, I've really been able to tailor that message, that communication. And I think that's been, one of the biggest keys.